I think practices are there to make you feel uncomfortable and try different things. So the moment you go into game and those scenarios could come up, you're ready for it.
For example, say a club cricketer that doesn't have any video footage, just playing against someone that they've never even bowled to before. Any advice that you give for those in the amateur game in terms of setting up a batsman? What kind of advice, what things they should they be doing at the top of their mark as they go through their spell?
I think this is a funny thing. I spoke to one of our bowlers 2 weeks ago about the same thing. He overanalyzes the players he plays against so much. And by the time he gets into the game, he's made up his mind what he wants to do already. And when he can't do it, he's so negative and about what he's done because he didn't do what he saw and envisioned doing, that he starts bowling worse. So I think it plays a big part in the game these days. But I think sometimes it's really good to go into the game fresh and seeing with your own eyes what to do against a batter. And I think sometimes when you bowl, in international cricket, it takes guys, yes, there's a lot of video analysis, but guys also change their game plan. You know, you're going to do something different. International bowlers will take 2 to 3 balls to sum up a batter. First-class cricketers will take 9 balls, and then clubbies and guys younger will take a lot longer. But I think the big key is sometimes you get the feel as a bowler when you're bowling to the person. But I think the biggest thing of summing up a batter happens when you're fielding. Sometimes guys go to fine leg and they drift and they don't really focus and they get their breath back. That's when they got to see which way the guy's feet movements are. Are they going back first? Are they going forward first? The guy at point to give you advice, how deep is in his crease. So using the feelers to help you, these feet movements, looking when you're fielding, what the guys are doing will give you a slight edge. When you bowl, of course, if you're skilled enough as a bowler, you would know, okay, this guy is a strong front foot player. I need to be maybe short over length. And then playing around, okay, let's see, does he move across? No, move across. So that's a good thing. Keep him on the leg side and then try and go one away, try and get nicking or bowl him. So it's just, is your skill good enough? But also just making sure you keep on watching, observing at all times to really know what the batter is doing. And I think that's a skill that you, if the higher you go up, that you get better with and you do it quicker.
How much time are you spending going around the wicket, over the wicket, specific balls, swinging the ball away, bringing it back in? Were you doing those specific drilling? And again, any advice you can give for those watching as well?
I think that's a really important thing to practice. I think a lot of times guys will go to nets and they just want to stay bowling over the wicket and make them feel comfortable. I think practices are there to make you feel uncomfortable and try different things. So the moment you go into game and those scenarios could come up, you're ready for it. So I think, yes, you have to practice those things. I did a lot because we were lucky at Graham Smith that was quite left-hander. I quite enjoyed practicing to him because he was pretty skillful against guys coming around the wicket to him. So I bowled around the wicket, trying to take it away from him. Then I would then not forget about the option coming over. So for me is these days, guys say, let's be bowling around the wicket to guys and they stick to the plan, just bowling to left-handers around the wicket, and guys normally get used to it. So I think you've got to practice being adaptable bowling over and around the wicket, and then also try and play around with different deliveries. It's your duty and responsibility as a bowler to be skilled enough and equipped enough to try different things with losing control, if that makes sense. So when you're going around the wicket, try and play with the different angles at the crease, because the different angle of the crease, okay, it's already a different angle. That is already like a variation without even trying. Then the different balls you can play around with. Once again, it all depends on the conditions. I say a lot of times conditions dictate what you have to do and how you want to go about it. So if the ball is maybe not swinging as much, it might be then play around with the angle of the seam in your hand. It might go easier seaming away. Then that could be your delivery for the day, and you might forget about the one that comes back. Maybe just if you can keep it cross seam and keep it going straight, that's also an option to try. But I think it's just a thing you have to play around with at practices, so you know what you can do and what you can't do. So by the time you go into the game, you've tried these options, and it's not strange to you.
There's a lot of talk now about fast bowlers and having a braced front leg, shoulder hip separation. Were you thinking about all that back in the day?
I think it's important. It all depends. So a lot of times people go on the braced leg if the guy's got a real good action. But I think a lot of times coaches and people in general want to clone bowlers and want to make them look like the perfect specimen. And unfortunately, it's in these days not possible anymore. I think we lose the uniqueness of certain bowlers, and that brings the excitement. Like a boomerang is different and unique. And I think you have to be adaptable to the bowlers you're working with, or as a bowler, what's your strengths and weaknesses, know what you need to be doing in your action to make it really efficient. Of course, you got to make it work efficient and smartly, so it'll cut down on injuries, and also make sure you're consistent on your length and accuracy, because at the end of the day, you might be unique, but you can't pitch the ball where you need to. You have to find the right balance of those things. So I think it's important. Yes, it plays a part, knowing all those smart things, if I can say. But I think it's important to know what works for you, know what makes your action work well, and make it consistent and effective enough for injuries and, of course, performances.
In terms of practicing bouncers, if you've got a youngster currently, there's a lot said about bowling line and length and putting a cloth down there, and it just seems a bit more straightforward to kind of practice that in the nets. But how would you advise a youngster in terms of bowling an effective bouncer, and how would they practice that in a net situation, for example?
I think the bouncer, sometimes people think it's just for intimidation. Yes, it plays a part, but also if you're a real good length bowler, you move the ball away from a good length quite consistently. If you have a very effective bouncer, it stops the guy's feet. Now it's got two things to think about. And then if you can hit your consistent length quite well, then it actually brings in a dismissal, or a bigger chance for dismissal, because his feet's stuck. So I think it's a very effective ball in general. I think probably the best way for you to train it is to do it at nets. Put your normal little marker or whatever you do at nets where you want to bowl. But I think then put another marker on where you think the best bouncer would be coming through head height. It is also important to make sure you sum up the conditions, which length you have to bowl to make it quite accurate, because you don't want to spend that much energy on bowling a bouncer if it's not directed in the right way and used in the right way. So it's making sure that you're just getting it quite accurate, where you can use what I've used with our guys at Essex. I've got almost like a big, tall broom, put it in a beacon or like a cone, if that's like a street cone, and then put a face of a batter on there, for argument's sake, whoever our bowlers didn't like. And they will have to bowl one or two bounces in a spell of 5 overs to that beacon to try and see if they can hit that face, just to make sure it's quite accurate and effective instead of wasting energy. I think that's probably the way of using it and making sure it's used wisely. So you can be creative on putting beacons up, or you can get like anything really. But I think it's just making sure it gets used effectively, not using energy at the wrong way.